Let me welcome you to this session. My name is Lane Robinson. I'm moderating. In the room, we have, I think, a good set of speakers and panelists here. Welcome to those who are online as well. I hope they can hear me. Katie, can you just check that they're hearing us clearly? Our rapporteur in the room today is Tamara. She's from the ComSec. She'll be helping to gather some of the thoughts. But our wonderful speakers that we have for this session are seated here, and I hope that as you engage with them, this session will be rich and rewarding for you as we look at the ideas around safe systems and spaces within faith-inspired youth work. We're going to kick off this morning with a little adjustment to the program. So we'll have David and Benedict, who will be going first, and then we'll be followed by Ayub, who will be followed afterwards. I'll just kick off by saying, David and Benedict, tell me a little bit about yourself as you kick off. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Susie. Get more energetic. I tend to get quite active when I do stuff. Great to see you. Really good to be here and to join with you. We're grateful to the organisers of the conference to be able to present this paper to you. It is being sent out subsequently, so I'm going to abbreviate it a bit because we're short on time, and also just to bring a bit more real personality into what can be just a fairly standard paper. So my name is David Howell, and I work for and facilitate the Christian Youth Work Consortium, which seeks to bring together the Christian churches and Christian youth work agencies across the UK. And we're committed to working with and serving young people. And also taking part is Dominic, who will also introduce himself when it comes to it, but he's UK and Ireland's Operation Director and Executive Safeguarding Officer for Young Life International, Christian organisation that engages with 1.6 million people worldwide. Not him personally, but the organisation. The purposes of this paper, which is Safer Systems and Safer Practice for Youth Work in Private Dwellings, is twofold. We want to recognise the value of the home in the personal, social, spiritual and educational development of young people. And secondly, to encourage the practice of safe youth work within homes, whether that be those of the young people or those of the youth workers committed to serving and living their faith in the local area, or those of a faith community members who open their homes as part of their commitment to the spiritual development, all, including young people. At its heart, youth work is a distinct educational process adapted across a variety of settings to support a young person's personal, social and educational development. Those of you who are from the MIA will recognise that from the website, just dropped in to show that we know who's sponsoring this event. It exists to help young people to explore their values, beliefs, ideas and issues, and to enable them to develop their voice, influence and place in society, to acquire a set of practical or technical skills and competencies to realise their full potential. And those of us in the faith community, I would add into this the text found in the National Occupational Standards for Youth Work, which is a set of guiding occupational standards that we use across the UK, which includes there to facilitate the personal, social, spiritual and educational development of young people. During the COVID-19 pandemic, youth work had to urgently rethink its practice as a result of rapidly changing government regulations, especially with regards to mixing generally and in private dwellings. Within the Christian faith community, youth work had been taking place in private dwellings for many years, and the cessation of this particular locus operandi, together with the challenges of careful reopening subsequently, they provided us an opportunity to think and reflect on this space in which we undertake youth work. First of all, there's a sense of value. Across the world, as we see in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, there's a presumption that home within a family should be the safest and most important place for human development and flourishing. The preamble to the rights states that the parties to the convention are convinced that the family, as the fundamental group of society and the natural environment for the growth and well-being of all its members, and particularly children, should be afforded the necessary protection and assistance so that it can fully assume its responsibilities within the community. There's another quote as well in the paper that you'll see. As well as fully recognising the benefits of working with young people within homes, for example, within fostering and adoption, we have to reflect additionally on the potential risks, as highlighted in the English setting by the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, which has been reporting to UK government. The Christian youth work community in the UK, churches and Christian youth work agencies, sometimes called parachurch agencies, are currently considering this mode of working and formulating guidelines for policy and practice. So we're actually getting together, working out what's the best, safest way to work, what are the important things about how we do this in order to gain the most personal, social and spiritual development as a result of youth work in homes. Do need to point out that in our setting, in the UK, the legal term for those under 18 is children. I would not be using the word children. I tend more to use young people who on the MYA scheme, often 11 to 19 years, but also to support young people through adolescence, typically from 8 to 25. So the legal term is child, but we're using young person in this setting. We recognise that youth work, both the understanding and practice, must vary across the Commonwealth. So I hope that some of what I say will be of value, or it might even be that you are experiencing ways of working which can help us to rethink what we do and challenge how we do. There's other stuff in the paper about funding, but also about voluntary participation and the importance of youth work. Youth work generally undertaken by local authorities in England has always worked on the basis of relating directly to and with the young person within safeguarding boundaries. This voluntary participation has recognised the young person's growth towards adulthood as an individual, and has generally kept the workers' relationships with parents and carers at arm's length. This has meant that the majority of the work has taken place away from private dwellings of the children and young people, more often in local halls, youth centres, detached, all prior to the austerity measures. But within the faith-based sectors, there's generally been a different approach because of greater, more complex set of relationships that exist between the young people, the youth worker, parents, and the rest of the faith community. In these settings, there are often pre-existing friendships between workers and parents. My wife has been in the church for 40 years and knew them before they were even born, as it were, knew them when they were coming, and so has a new set of understandings and new relationships with the parents as well. At the same time, there are occasions when the faith-based sector, when youth work takes place in homes, as a result of the belief systems of the faith communities and the strong place of hospitality in the major world religions. For the Christian faith-based sector, this has normally been through the years before Christ and has been a key element of Christian church since the Christ event. And one purpose of this paper is to explore this difference from local authority work and to affirm the value of appropriate and safe working in the homes of young people, youth workers and or faith community members. Now, the authors of this paper and all of those who are involved in working this out together, all of whom practitioners within churches or Christian agencies, we're committed to the principles and practice of keeping children safe, keeping young people safe. And we totally support the statement of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse that a child protection policy is the basic foundation on which organisations working with children should build their practices to keep children safe. And we encourage all the organisations that we work with to have established and implemented their safeguarding policy in line with government advice and best practice. It is with immense sadness that we note that there have been occasions when children have been abused, and sadly, this awful practice continues in some settings to this day. For those within the Christian faith community, it's especially abhorrent due to the high value that our faith gives to humanity through being made in the image of God, and the special position of children, which was emphasised through the teaching and actions of Christ. So the aim of this paper and the work that's linked to it is to enable youth work to take place safely, effectively, and powerfully through the setting of clear boundaries and practices which value every young person as a child of God. The work with church denominations and Christian agencies on developing and enhancing safer practice is underpinned by a commitment to safeguarding and driven by the importance of and value of each child and young person. So the context and circumstances of any work which involves a private dwelling, involves a home, we've sought to identify some of those settings. And this could include work within activity of private dwelling of a staff member or volunteer, activity in the private dwelling of the young person or young adult, or activity in the home of faith communities. As a result of working on this paper together, we heard from a young person in a church in Leeds who said, I think for me, the general ease and comfort is what I appreciate, being able to relax on a sofa, the environment being less influential, such as a church building, perhaps encouraging more care in what's being said, which can be a good thing. I think all this contributes to a more open and intimate discussion, which works well for our group. The youth worker said, as a leader of a small youth group, I really appreciate the benefits of being able to meet in my home. We partly meet at my house for practical reasons. Our church doesn't own its own building. I also enjoy being able to host the young people. I think it helps them to feel part of the church family. We enjoy catching up and having discussions about a range of issues in a comfortable, warm, safe environment. We always ensure safety, for example, by having 2 leaders present, by sharing the location and meeting details with parents, by keeping a record of who was present, and by regularly attending safeguarding training. An organisation called the Youthscape Centre for Research has done a survey in 2021 on the value of activities called relational hubs. These are after-school drop-in venues run by Christian churches and agencies in the southeast of England. Their report was entitled Feels Like Home, Youthscape 2021, and it captured the value of the home to the young people. Each drop-in was a safe place where youth workers maintained boundaries that protected this positive atmosphere. Young people valued the freedom to engage as much or as little as they wanted in the drop-in, and contrasted this with the structure of school life. They appreciated youth workers being accessible every day after school, which meant they could chat to them as and when they wanted. And one 16-year-old commented on his local hub, the bell tower. He said, wherever the bell tower goes, it still feels like home. Like we had to relocate, but it still feels like home. So within the faith sector, we have intentionally and thoughtfully developed approaches to working with young people that are built on safe, positive and mutual relationships. We're not alone in this approach. Although we're not alone, we have a distinctive understanding and set of experiences of youth work that includes the process of journeying with young people. And this approach places the core principles of youth and community work in the lens of mutuality and journey, inevitably increasing the development of practice grounded in safe, genuine, friend-like relationships and the real lives of volunteers and practitioners. Our aim is to see the personal, social and spiritual development of all young people through this work. And so we've developed safe practices for working with young people in private dwellings, which includes relational youth work, group work, learning and personal development, mentoring, support work, community participation, volunteer supervision, involvement in family or community life, increasing trust and understanding, celebrations and life events, role model, accompanying and journeying with young people. There are a number of settings that can take place, as we've already said, in terms of youth work. There are also other organisations, other activities that use the home, which it's important to hold in relation to the work we do. So education for those who are school phobics, those who are afraid of school. My wife was a former teacher for a school phobic, going into the home in order to work there. Fostering and adoption had used homes for years as being a key safe space, and important place for care. Supported lodgings, respite care, private academic tutoring takes place in homes, music lessons, either in the child's home or tutor home, social work care assessments. And so I'm going to move on now, and Benedict's going to sort of do a bit more of the sort of real life examples of what happens.
Great, so I'm Benedict Sutton, and I'm so glad that I get to share with you today about how we found youth work in home settings to be a game changer for young people and for their personal development. So I'm standing here as a contributor to the Christian Youth Work Consortium. I'm really drawing on 4 different perspectives that I come with. So as Operations Director and Safeguarding Officer at Young Life International in the UK and Ireland, as a former trustee of Urban Saints and the Ezra and Nehemiah Trust to Christian youth organisations in the UK with a national reach. Also, as a practitioner, I head up the local youth group in my local church. And as a former young person, despite my receding hairline, I still remember vividly those times I was huddled with my youth group and my youth leaders in my parents' conservatory, having some of the most deep and meaningful conversations of my teenage years. So the lion's share of my time and energy over the last 10 years has really been working with Young Life, where we pour our time and energy into 4,500 young people across the UK each year. And we're part of a global mission, which, as David pointed out, reaches out to 1.6 million young people globally, half of whom are in the Commonwealth. And as we walk alongside the young people week by week, the 3 biggest needs that we've identified is for security, community, and significance. Security, community, significance. Am I safe? Do I belong? Do I matter? So how have we gone about meeting those needs? Well, certainly in the Young Life context, we have 500 young people welcome through the doors of our youth clubs each week. We take 800 young people away to camp each summer in the UK. We pour countless hours into detached youth work. But there's a problem. It only works if young people come to us. It only works if young people have the confidence to leave their own homes, their own neighborhoods, the environments that they're familiar with, and to come to us. But what about when they don't come? How do we go to them? Across Young Life and across the Christian Youth Work Consortium, we've found that youth work in home contexts has been a launch pad to the conversations that matter and a lifeline for young people in need. It's been a launch pad and it's been a lifeline. So we've run events for small groups, discussion groups, Bible studies, pizza parties, barbecues, a whole range of events in local homes and gardens. It's been a launch pad to deeper conversations where our youth workers have then been able to engage with the young people to help them with their mental health, with their friendships, with their family struggles, with their confidence issues. But actually, the homes and gardens of leaders and of parents have been a unique opportunity to model hospitality, to build trust, and to share burdens. So I'm going to quickly share with you 3 stories about how we're seeing this launchpad and this lifeline in action. And then David's going to finish up by helping us to navigate the landmines so that we can do this type of provision safely. So let me tell you about Rachel. Rachel was struggling with anxiety, with body image, with friendships at school. She retreated, barely communicating. Her mum didn't know what to do, so she asked her youth leader to help. This is a story that we've heard way too often, especially coming out of the pandemic. So the objective of this youth leader was to help Rachel over time to build confidence. It started with coffee and colouring in. The leader would meet with Rachel one-to-one in a local Costa coffee shop. There was not much talking. There was a lot of colouring. Over time, those kind of one-word answers developed into fuller conversations. We fast forward 2 years, Rachel now comes to the youth club each week. She joins in the songs and the games. She even invites her friends. What happens to develop her from this cautious colorer into this confident club attender? Well, actually, each week for those last 2 years, she had been going into the home of a youth leader who cares about her. Each week, a small group of girls met up for Bible studies in this youth leader's home, group of girls, group of leaders, so that they could show hospitality, so that they could support them in this quiet, relaxed, informal environment. And so they could open up about their daily struggles. They could receive pastoral support. They could build community as a small group of peers and leaders. And Rachel now won't stop talking. She laughs a lot. She's found a newfound confidence. So for her, being able to meet up consistently in a leader's home was a launch pad to helping to build relationships of trust and a great self-esteem. I want to tell you about Adele and how a pastoral visit of a youth leader into her home really helped her and became a lifeline. Adele was self-harming. She had huge anxiety at school. And gradually, bit by bit over time, she was opening up to her youth leader in coffee shop conversations. She knew she needed to tell her parents, but she was really struggling to build up the confidence to do that. So she asked if her youth leader would accompany her to go into her home and to speak to her mum together. So her mum invites the leader over. They have dinner together. They wash up together. The football is on in the background. This is normal. This is safe. The stage is set for this difficult conversation that Adele needs to have. Because only when young people feel safe do they share. So they discussed Adele's mental health struggles. She shared about her self-harm. There was lots of emotion, lots of pain, but so much more than that, there was huge amounts of acceptance. But actually, amongst the pain, Adele felt the relief that she had been heard and that she had shared the burden. Within the next 2 weeks, she had already started going to support sessions. She stopped covering her arms and she wore the largest of grins. And that conversation couldn't have happened in the bustle of a coffee shop or in the awkwardness of a phone call. That her youth leader going with her into her home was a lifeline, and it helped her to turn the corner in her mental health journey. I want to share with you one more story. And this is about Jane's movie night. So for some young people, meeting them outside of their home can be too much for them. Through interviews with over 10,000 young people, the researcher Chloe Comby has found that in England, young people have 50% fewer in real life experiences than they did before COVID. So they're less likely to leave the home, and that when they do, a lot of the public spaces like shopping centres and that kind of places, they now consider out of limits, off bounds. It affects how they socialise, how they interact with others. So Jane invites a group of girls that she's been working with to a movie night in her home, a local informal event in a nurturing environment where the girls and the youth leaders can bond and interact and build these really valuable relationships of trust. So Jane's home was nearby, it was welcoming, and they had been invited. The young people and leaders had a blast making 3 different kinds of popcorn. They had a giggle over the rom-com that they were watching. And this relaxed environment really opened up a conversation about daily challenges that they were facing in school and friendships on a deeper level. And by being in Jane's home, the girls caught a glimpse of her humanity. The photos of Jane's family and friends on the wall provoked really natural conversation about building healthy relationships. Even the dirty dishes in the sink helped to make Jane more relatable, helped her to role model what showing a fuller lifestyle can look like, a lifestyle that isn't based on social media likes, that isn't limited to online interactions, but that is fuller, that embraces relationships to really help their personal development. Actually, Jane was showing her managed vulnerability, showing herself in authentic yet appropriate ways to really help engage with the young people. This movie night was a launch pad for deeper conversations and for self-confidence. How many more cautious colorers are there like Rachel? How many more Adels are there who need safe spaces to bear their deepest burdens? How many more kids are there who are afraid to leave their home, who need role models who they can trust? In a world that is distracted by default, we look for appropriate ways to be persistently present. In a world that dwells on division, we build community. And in a world that tells young people that they're the problem, that they've been dealt a hopeless hand, actually, we invite them to find meaning and purpose. We have found that youth work in homes has provided a further context to make this happen, that it's been a launch pad for the conversations that matter, that it's been a lifeline for young people in need. And now I'm going to hand over to David, who's going to help us navigate the landmines so that we can do this safely and so that we can serve young people in a safe way.
It was actually going to be very short and sharp because we're very tight on time because of the time frame that we're working in. But like a school assembly, you have to finish when the bell goes, and this session has to finish when lunch is ready at 12 noon for us. So what I would say is that there are some key things we're working on, and any feedback you can give us in terms of other things that we need to be aware of and thinking through would be really helpful. But in terms of safer working practices, more detail in the paper, but the headlines are safeguarding has to be a first priority, and an appropriate and strong and robust safeguarding policy and practices document must be in place for the work that takes place. Secondly, the managed vulnerability that Benedict was just talking about with Jane, and that setting has to be thought through very carefully, so that appropriate boundaries are set in place. The concerns about what can be accessed and what cannot be accessed in a particular private dwelling is also important. Some private dwellings have children of youth workers who are not bothered about the rest of what's going on in the living room, but they need their own living space, and that has to be protected. The establishing of appropriate boundaries all the way through, and appropriate ratios of working with children and young people. The venue has to be suitable. It's got to be appropriate. It's got to make sense to actually hold something there, because not every home is appropriate. Not every private dwelling place is appropriate. You might be thinking of your own setting. And so a studio flat is probably the last place you'd want to do anything like that, just because of the numbers and because of the fact that it's also intended to be a more private space for the person concerned who lives there. The importance of seeking informed consent all round to ensure that the young people themselves consent to it, that their parents understand and accept the process, and ensuring the suitability of workers, ensuring that they are safe, that there is safer recruitment taking place, and that they understand the risk. The environmental risks of a home. Probably not good to have guys who are into knife crime popping into the kitchen where there's a knife rack and things. Ensuring privacy and security, and the fact of also people have got to continue living there after the young people have gone. So how do you ensure that even having young people there ensures that you're still being a good neighbour? There are a whole mix of things, but our time has raced away. But anything you'd like to contribute would be very grateful, because we're still working on this and still wanting to develop this out for the Christian community across the UK. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation. And I think what we heard today, and the case studies and the examples and the definition of those landmines are noteworthy, and something we should think about in our own context, and probably at the appropriate time, probably look at some questions that we could pose. But I just had one in terms of looking at the practitioners, the youth workers who do this. You know, what are some of their stories in terms of the risks that they have faced? Are there any challenges that they say, listen, we can't, this is an area where we would advise others to be careful of. They're feeding into your report. Have you had some case studies where an example from the youth worker standpoint that you might want to share? Do you have any of those on this impact on them working in this context?
I do have a good friend who worked and moved into an area with his own young family because they wanted to establish youth work there. There was no sort of established youth work in any sense, and they wanted to be a community that lived there. But it was as his children grew up and they started realizing, hang on, we've got to look at schools and things, that the area that they were committed to was in fact one social deprivation, one of difficulties, one where the schools were seen as failing schools. So where do your own children go?
Right.
I leave that question with you just to recognize that this was something they had to work out themselves. And sometimes you have to work out, am I going to can I sacrifice my children for this, or do I sacrifice our own commitment to this for the time being and move back later? Big questions.
Sorry, it's a good example because I think this type of practice is really you are the youth worker has to commit to being in that space.
Yes.
So it's a very, you don't leave the youth center and close the door and go home. Your home becomes a place of work as well. So I think there will be challenges there that are interesting. Thanks for sharing. I think it's a good example of some interesting. Maybe there's a question from the audience. Is there any question? Yes, please.
It strikes me that I do a lot of work on social media, running websites and stuff like that, and that comes home with me. It's also around equalities and also around crime. So big topics to be taken home with you.
Yeah.
It strikes me as it must be very, very interesting if you then also bring the young people into your life.
Yes.
As well. I would, given the work I do, I would struggle to see where I could find those boundaries. But is there support for youth workers around that to help find those boundaries?
Yeah, and what I would say is actually it sits, certainly for us in our context, it's in a much wider context of relational youth ministry that doesn't just happen on a Friday night between 7 and 9 p.m. That there are these other local opportunities. The home then being a voluntary, nonetheless, but a voluntary extension of that. So yeah, absolutely, it's baked into how we support our volunteers and our staff. Is how do we put appropriate boundaries in place? How do we think through the implications of what it's going to mean if there are young people in your home? How do you create healthy separation? So yeah, absolutely, it's a really important point, and I'm glad you raised it.
Could you say your name, actually?
Sarah Robinson Galloway from Youth Link Scotland.
Wonderful. And there's another question. I'm just checking if there's any question online, or just checking if those online are able to follow as well. We'll take your question, say your name, and then we'll go to our next presenter.
Shanice, for Trinidad. I just had a question in terms of you're bringing persons into your home, but there are also other people that may live there, right? So what are the considerations made for those people? Is like additional training and support given to them so that they know how to operate with other young people in that kind of shared space, and also in terms of safety issues and where parents are concerned, yes, they may know you as the individual worker, but they may not necessarily know your siblings or cousins who may pop by, or friends or whatever. So how do we kind of, I guess, close off this space in a way that, is safe for everyone?
I think it's really important. It's part of the boundaries issue, working out what those boundaries are, and in some cases, okay, so it doesn't take place in your home because it's not going to be appropriate for the rest of the home. So it's a boundary issue. Also, in terms of safeguarding, fortunately, there is a tick box on the DBS. That's the system in this country for checking that people with the police service that they are at the time of the check are safe to work with children and young people. There is a box that you can tick for your work takes place at home. So, and that's important because that means they'll also check on the other residents to ensure if there's any DBS things there that we need to be aware of. But no, it's got to be thought carefully through. But thank you for that. I've made note about other residents, and also supervision and accountability, I think, is an important area too, to make sure that we provide that for youth workers.
So just to conclude on this one for now, so you're working on a kind of a set of guidelines that could guide youth workers who want to work in this context. You say a little bit about the timelines, when will it when can we, how do we contribute a bit more to it? When will we look forward to seeing something?
There's a group that's meeting sort of virtually across the UK to actually sort of work this out, and we're really trying to get things through. Hopefully, sort of very early autumn to have something. And oh, where are our emails?
The emails. Oh,
Yeah,
so
Our
we can
emails.
circulate them.
we'll get used. Yes,
Yeah.
once you go to the website,
Yeah.
it's there as well.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you so much. A round of applause again for the first half. Now we're gonna go to Ayub Sedat, the COO for Here for Youth. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your work as you share with us on the Mosque, a safe space for faith-inspired youth work.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think it was really an interesting presentation. I've made so many notes, and I hope that we can connect afterwards. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of God, the most merciful, the ever merciful. Thank you everyone for your time today. Can you all hear me at the back? Yeah. We've got Scotland, Trinidad and Tobago, Malaysia, Nigeria, Birmingham,
UK, Birmingham,
but another Birmingham,
Papua New
London,
Guinea, Papua New Guinea,
and Manchester, and Papua New Guinea. Anyone fancy? No?
Australia, but
Australia.
London at the moment.
So I think Australia wins. Leicester.
Not quite.
Yeah, Australia wins. I think Katie gets the award for person travel, the third place for today's session. My name is Ayub, and it was quite interesting because obviously we're here at the Commonwealth Conference, and I was just thinking about what my relationship with the Commonwealth is, and I realised just this morning that I'm triple linked to the Commonwealth. I didn't realise it. So my grandparents were born in India, Commonwealth country. My parents were born in Zambia in Africa, Commonwealth country, and I was born here, Commonwealth country. So I didn't realise I was triply connected to the Commonwealth. So yeah, my background is Indian or East African by way of India, but I'm British. for one, for lack of a better term. So I've been in the community outreach field for the last 15 years. And since 2018, my focus has been on youth engagement, and in particular, youth engagement in the Muslim community. How do we reach people, and in particular, how do we unlock the potential of our communities to effectively engage teenagers? Oh, there it is. So I took a, yeah, it's working now. Perfect.
Okay.
That's for those of you who want to connect. But yeah, I saw the Zambia flag up there, and I just had to get a selfie with it so that my parents would be happy. I should find the India one somewhere. It's out there somewhere. But before I come to that, yeah, since 2018, our focus has been on engagement at the grassroots level, how we can unlock the potential of our communities to engage teenagers in their local area. But when the pandemic hit in 2020, so I had been focusing on youth work for the better part of 2 years, direct delivery, traveling up and down the country. We'd have sessions of 70 or 80 young people at a time, not because we're anything special, but because the need is so great for engagement. And when young people saw that, oh, there's something happening for them in their local area, in a space that they find safe, in a space that they trust, with people who they can relate to, they would turn up in their droves. But the pandemic hit 2020, and so like everyone, we had to pivot and we had to think, right, how can we continue the work that we're doing, or do we just, close down shop for a few years and ride this storm out? So we transitioned our youth work, our youth engagement online. We pioneered the use of Discord and online gaming, and we had scores of young people, not just in the UK, but from around the world, engaging with us in this kind of digital youth work space. And then as soon as the NYA in the UK gave the green light that we could start to do sessions again, we had those same young people online every week. If the session was on a Friday night, we'd announce on Wednesday that, right, there's 15 spaces, socially distanced sessions happening, first come, first serve. And there would be a ruckus every week for people trying to book in online, trying to book so they could come in person. And one of the main one of the main things that happened for us during the pandemic is that we transitioned away from direct delivery, which is what we've been doing for the last 10 years up and down the country with over 250 communities, and to a training and coaching approach. So right now our focus is on in identifying individuals and communities, organizations who want to engage teenagers in their local area, and we then train, coach, resource, support, guide, mentor them from zero to hero. And I'll share some statistics later on about how many of those people, have the right policies in place. We talked about safeguarding just now. These are key issues, and if they're not addressed at the foundational level, then sometimes this youth provision can continue not in the best way. But yeah, like Professor Salah said yesterday, we can't keep doing what we're doing. We need to break the status quo. We need to disrupt how things are done. And so after we questioned our whole model of engagement, we've took over a decade of experience and put it into our youth engagement framework. Now, Lane here talked about the 4 I's yesterday. Pop quiz for those who are here. Who remembers what the 4 I's were? I'll start you off. Integrity, innovation,
Inshallah.
inshallah, God willing, inclusive,
Investment.
the investment. I think there's one more.
Inclusion.
Inclusion. Did someone say integrity?
Yeah,
There we go. So what I'm going to share with you now will hopefully cover all the 4 I's mentioned by Lane yesterday. And I didn't realize you were going to be here, so it's a bit embarrassing.
It's no problem.
For those of you in the UK, I'm sure you've seen this statistic or seen this article.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
We've got someone running around trying to find the gardener to ask them to stop. Yeah, sorry, apologies about
That's okay.
this. Hopefully it will stop soon.
So this was a piece of work done by the YMCA, and they looked at the investment cuts, the funding cuts to youth services in the UK. So they're down over the last decade, thanks to austerity, over 70%. And it's no surprise that we've seen in that corresponding time a rise in all sorts of antisocial behavior, youth problems, because frankly, the infrastructure just doesn't exist anymore in the UK like it did even 10 years ago, let alone 20 or 30 years ago. And so recognizing this, our focus really has been, how can we tackle this problem in a sustainable way? How can we address this problem of engaging young people in a way that doesn't require huge amounts of funding, in a way that doesn't require huge amounts of training or resource investment? And so our focus at Here for Youth for the last few years has been on unlocking the potential of the existing physical infrastructure that we have in our communities, i.e. our mosques, our places of worship. And this is a really sustainable approach to youth engagement. Why build new centers? Why build new places? Why build new organizations when space already exists and we just have to unlock the potential? But this idea, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. This idea of using the mosque as a safe space, as a place of youth engagement, isn't actually a new idea in Islamic thought. So this is a really nice shot of the Prophet's mosque in Medina in Saudi Arabia, peace be upon him. Now, this was founded in the 6th century, and the legacy of the establishment of this mosque, which didn't look like that in the 6th century, this is what it looks like now, but the legacy of that tradition is what carries us forward today. So the Prophet's mosque at that time, it was not just a place of prayer, it was actually a homeless shelter. It was actually a hospital. It was actually a place for receiving dignitaries. It was actually a distribution center for food and for funds. It was actually a nursing home. It was actually a place of entertainment for special occasions. And this idea of the mosque being the hub of the community, the multifaceted role it plays. This is the tradition that we as Muslims carry, in Islam, and over the centuries, perhaps the understanding of it has been diluted, and now we see our mosques perhaps as just places of prayer, when traditionally they were the source of everything, and the prayer was the least of the obligations that it fulfilled. But over the centuries, I'll take you through from the 6th century through till today. Does anybody recognize this famous landmark in Istanbul? This is the Süleymaniye Mosque. It's an Ottoman imperial mosque built in approximately 1557. And at the time of its construction, it was not only a place of worship, but it was a charitable foundation. So it had on its grounds a hospital, a soup kitchen, it had schools, it had accommodation for travelers, and it had a really complex welfare system that fed 1,000 of the city's poor every single day. So again, this legacy that we're reviving with the work that we're doing at Here For You today isn't something new. This is kind of in the DNA of what it means to be a good citizen. This is in the DNA of what it means, what the role our mosque should be playing as the hub of the whole community, not just the Muslim community. Final geography lesson. Anybody recognize this building? Well, 2 of you should at least, because you're from Birmingham. This is the Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham. So like I said, mosques historically have a long track record of positive civic engagement. Food banks, humanitarian relief, homeless shelters, and if we take the example of Green Lane Mosque, they were even a COVID vaccine center. They opened up their doors. They, I don't know how many thousands of people were vaccinated or used it as a space. But again, these are some of the examples of the role that mosques can play as a hub of the community. And Green Lane Mosque, not only was it a vaccine center, but it has, I think, 40 different community youth engagement services. They're a big player in the West Midlands with the Violence Reduction Unit. They do some amazing work, and we're honored to be partnered with them in their training and coaching. But more than that, they also have a fantastic thing, which is a knife bank. So you'll see on the left over there, or yeah, your left. They've had guns dropped in their knife bank, machetes, scissors, you name it. And again, just creating a space where people can feel that they can drop their violent weapons, a space where people can come in, is critical. Now imagine every mosque had a knife bank, where, without fear of getting approached or talked to or arrested. These are the small social changes that we could make to impact our community. And Green Lane Mosque, with the support of Mercy Mission UK, they're currently working on a project with a youth investment fund to build the first purpose-built youth centre at a mosque in the UK, with youth provision supported by the DCMS. And their current engagement is about 1,000 a year. They aim to lift that to 5,000 a year. So again, keep an eye out on Green Lane Mosque as one of the potential beacons for us to look forward to. But now I've talked a lot about the mosque and the local space, and really this is where the work begins. They say it takes a village to raise a child. If each of our villages were equipped, trained, resourced to take care of their own, Muslim and non-Muslim, the community, doesn't matter who, doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is. If they had that, we'll see a huge change. 30% of British Muslims live in the 10% of the most deprived areas of the UK. There is a huge need for us to lift up what's happening in our communities. But as you can see here, this is an example from America of young people. But they need a place where they can go and express themselves. our focus as an organization is on the 14 to 18 or 14 to 25 age group. In particular, because under the age of 14, there's already existing services that do really good jobs. You know, you have the Scouts movement that are great up to the age of 14. You have family settings, you've got private dwellings. When children are younger, it's a little bit easier to engage them. But once they become teenagers, they need a separate space. They need someone they can talk to. They need a mentor. They need someone that they can trust that won't, that will just listen to them. We talk a lot about youth leadership, but it's more than just a buzzword. We have a potential here to create spaces where young people can actually grow and actually develop. We always talk about IQ, intelligence quotient, and sadly for young people, that's all they get talked to about. They have to do their SATs, they have to do their GCSEs, their A levels, they have to go to university, they have to do further education, they need to specialize. It's all IQ, 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 IQ. At what point are we going to develop young people's emotional intelligence, their moral intelligence? What about political intelligence? How are they going to engage with the world around them? So creating a safe space where young people can explore these things with trusted adults around them in a space that they feel safe is something that is, vitally needed. So everyone loves a good theory of change, and outputs and outcomes. Let's talk about some of the outcomes. The outputs are the center. The outputs is the center that engages young people on a weekly basis with, all of our centers are youth-led. So the activities aren't dictated to them. They choose what they want to do. They lead it. They suggest it, and wherever it's feasible, it can happen. We had one of our hubs in Hackney, one of the most deprived boroughs of London. The young people came to us and they said, "Oh, you know what we'd really love? We'd love a drawing tablet so we can do digital art." And we looked it up. These drawing tablets, the good ones, not an Amazon Chinese one. They're about £600 to £700. They're good, pieces of good kit, good graphic design kit. But I said, you know what? Yeah, we'll do it. We'll invest in it because that's what they wanted to do. That's what and that it's what I found is when young people tell you what they want to do and you facilitate it for them, it's so the appreciation is so much better than if you said, "Hey everyone, I've just bought you a £600 tablet. Go ahead and use it." This is where the relationship comes in. So the outcome, if we can establish the mosque as a local youth hub for the whole community, we can engage and empower teenagers to be confident in their identity, in a space that is safe and loving, a place where they can meet their peers and access local mentors and role models that ultimately will help them develop positive, strong character traits and crucially set them up for a lifetime of success. We know we have a limited window of opportunity when it comes to engaging young people. If we can engage them at those critical times, I often give this example that a 16-year-old isn't 16 long. In 5 years they're 21. They're moving on with their life. They're working, whatever. Life carries them away. But if you can engage them in those critical years, and if someone can engage them whom they trust in a place they feel safe in, it's far more impactful than just a random encounter with a youth worker where they may or may not come back. And I've got some data to share with you about what is the kind of the repeat attendance like. But yeah, some of the outcomes, they build meaningful relationships with a trusted adult, with a mentor in that space. Weekly engagement is the kind of the baseline for all of the hubs that we operate across the country at a minimum. What this does is, especially in an out of school setting, again, school is great, but school is dictated to young people. They have to be there at 8:50 and thing is at 9 o'clock and then lunch is at 12 o'clock. We need to finish by 12 o'clock. I didn't check the time. I didn't. I'm running away from it. Everything of their life is dictated to them. They've got to be home a certain time, and then they've got to do their homework, and whatever it may be. When they're at university, they've got deadlines. When they're at work, we've all got deadlines. everything is dictated. But creating spaces, in and out of school setting where they have control over, that they can go there, they can be there. That small element of control is so powerful for a young person. So powerful for them, for their own self-worth, their own self-development. They're choosing to be there. One of the rules that we have for all of our hubs is that they'll never close. If the session is meant to be on Friday at 7 p.m., even if no volunteers are there, space will be open. Even if no young people turn up, space will be open. Because you never know what a young person has gone through to get there. You don't know they've taken 3 buses and a train and a plane to get to that place. And if they turn up there and you just close it because you're like, oh, I didn't feel like it today, that damages that relationship. It could be irreparable. We need to create trust with our young people. And that's one of the key outcomes. We talked about identity. When they're in a space like this, they can explore their identity. They can understand, what does it mean to be Muslim and British and a tri-member of the Commonwealth like myself. I need to explore. I need to eat out on that a little bit more this week. They need access to role models and mentors. Mentoring is such a huge opportunity. When people come approach us and say, oh, would you like to come to a careers fair? We often say no, because I would rather sit with your young people. You sit with your young people, we'll train you how to do it. Ask them, what do you want to do? And these people want to be a doctor. This one wants to be a carpenter. These guys want to get into physio. These guys want to get into tech. I would rather go out and find you 4 mentors who will mentor you for 3 months in that specific area. Then let's go to a big careers fair and I'll pick up pens from 100 different booths. The outcomes, we need to get better at engaging young people. I often say that you got to walk down the road to realize you're going down the wrong road. Same with young people. We're asking them to make decisions about their life at the age of 14, 15, 16 that affect the rest of their lives. How do they know? And if they don't choose ABC A levels, for example, they can never get into XYZ. There's so much that is at stake for young people in that critical age group, 14 to 18. But as a community, we're lacking the engagement, lacking the trust, lacking the relationships to actually engage them. And one of the final outcomes is character development. Being in a space like this where they have autonomy, where they have opportunities for leadership. In I would say in the majority of our hubs, packing up, setting up is all done by the young people. They have the keys to the building. After a certain, they've got a key fob, they can get in, they can set up, they can pack it down. Again, giving this kind of responsibility to young people is huge in terms of character development. But conscious of time. So the impact of our training and coaching. So like I mentioned, we pivoted away from direct delivery. We've been doing direct delivery for over 10 years to tens of thousands of young people across the country, from Aberdeen all the way down to across down south, across to Wales and Ireland as well. But just, as a snapshot of our impact, in the last 2 months alone, we've trained 131 new people to get into youth work, and that's across 8 communities in the UK. In total, with this new model of work that we've launched, we've now trained 290 people to get into youth work from 25 communities across the UK. So collectively, we impact more than 500 teenagers a week. Now multiply that out, that's 2,000 a month, 24,000 a year. And for us, that's just the beginning. And we have a waiting list of about 40 more organizations. But even if you just summarize it down, round it down, the average attendance for one of our sessions is about 30. So if we have 50 organizations, and again, I talked about sustainability, collaboration. This isn't us doing the work. We've trained and coached these organizations on how to do this work. But imagine we had 50 organizations engaging 30 young people a session. That's 1,500 young people, normally every single week, 6,000 a month, 72,400 a year. It gets a bit silly with the numbers for people online. Yeah, it gets silly with the numbers. But it's a demonstration of just the impact of a small change. One small change. We will teach you how to effectively engage young people. You go and you do the work, and the numbers will speak for themselves. The numbers will take care of themselves. It's not a numbers game, but this demonstrates the power of collaboration, you know, and it's a sustainable approach. Of the 50 centers by the end of the year that we're going to have, we haven't bought them. We haven't paid for them. There's no rent for them. You know, one of the biggest blessings that the Muslim community in the UK have, and I'm sure it's the same from across the world, around the world, is that we own our mosques outright. They're owned by the community. They're all charities, charitable trusts. You know, they're owned by the community. We have a great opportunity here to unlock the potential for youth work in a sustainable way. You know, there's something like, I think one of the last stats I saw, there's 1,800 mosques in the UK alone. Like, imagine each of them, and this is one of our goals over the next 5 years, to reach one of them. But imagine each of them were trained to effectively engage teenagers in their local area. All teenagers, again, all teenagers in their local area. Lane, I think it was you or somebody else mentioned yesterday that there's 1.5 billion young people in the Commonwealth. I can answer how we reach them in one word. The way we reach 1.5 billion young people in the Commonwealth is together. That's it. It's not my organization, your organization. It's together. Only do this together. Let's see if this plays.
Since Ramadan, we travelled up and down the country delivering our youth engagement training to local mosques and community centres. We conducted impactful workshops training over 130 individuals on how to effectively engage teenagers. Attendees represented organisations across the UK in Birmingham, Leicester, Gloucester, Kent, London, and even more online. We taught them the importance of relationship building, creating safe spaces, and how to successfully run a youth hub. We also began in-person coaching sessions with some of our youth hub partners to assess their progress. These sessions were invaluable in solidifying the understanding and implementation of our youth engagement framework on the ground. We are now coaching our partners to implement what they have learned in their local communities. Your support has enabled us to achieve all of this. Thank you for helping us create safe spaces for young people across the UK.
Those of you online, apologies, but I think we're going to turn the slides around. I just saw I've got 2 minutes left of the timer that I set, so let's do this. Okay, at least this slide is working. So for us, ensuring that cultural competency is at the heart of everything that we do, and it needs to be at the heart of policy development and implementation. We need youth workers, we need trusted adults who are coached, trained on how to engage young people in a culturally competent way. And the starting point of our discussion is that youth workers, you know, first and foremost, are trusted adults. You know, it's hard to separate a trusted adult in terms of definition from that of a youth worker. And a common thread through discussion with young people and youth workers is the role that community plays in organizations around them. So a fundamental takeaway is that even if an adult doesn't see themselves in a position of trust with their community, a young person sees them very differently. I think 99% of the people that we've trained and we've coached have no desire to get into youth work as a career. They're not interested in the JNC qualification, level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That they have their careers, they have their backgrounds, they just want to do the work. And again, having having someone who is already established in their career, let's say they're a pharmacist or a lawyer or a professor or an engineer or carpenter, whatever it may be, having someone like that as a trusted adult in the center it makes it easier for young people to gravitate towards them, because they see these people as successful. You know, these people have achieved something already. They're a pharmacist, they're a lawyer, they're a banker, and they're here talking to us. It's slightly different. There we go. My time's up. It's slightly different, you know, when and again, I love youth workers, but when young people see youth workers and again, love you all, when all they see is that a youth worker is a youth worker, it's very difficult like to have that kind of aspirational conversation. Whereas if the trusted adult in your center is also a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a head teacher or whatever it may be, whatever profession, you know, they can have a much more aspirational conversation with that young person. And they can have that with the adult and with the young person. We heard from Jacob from UK Youth this morning, you know, there's so much from a social engagement, social value perspective that we need to do. And I've got a whole section here on trusted adults, but I'll jump very quickly to some of the points that were mentioned in yesterday's opening session. As a result of having a trusted adult, you know, the research has shown that number one, it improves a young person's mental health and well-being. Having someone that they can turn to and they can explore issues in a safe environment without judgment is critical for a young person's mental health development. Having a trusted adult in their community, in their orbit, in a space that they find safe and welcoming, can also mitigate the effects of trauma and abuse. In fact, a lot of the work, all of the work that we do now is trauma informed at its core. But young people who have a trusted adult in their life, in their orbit, can be more protected from child abuse, more protected against the long-term effects of adverse childhood experiences. And finally, positive educational outcomes. You know, people with access to a trusted adult are more ambitious in their educational expectations and goals due to having a positive role model. And some of the research done by UK Youth shows that places of worship were seen as a key setting with significant reach to young people that can benefit from having these embedded trusted adults that provide informal early intervention and mental health support. So there's a great piece of research done by UK Youth and Young Minds on the role of a trusted adult. I hope you check it out. So I have oodles of case studies to share with you. Let's see if I can do them all. Rashid used to run a youth club. He closed it down in 2019 because he just didn't have the support, training, funding, etc. Between 2019 and 2021, when he started it back up again with our help, there was a young person that used to attend that fell into the wrong crowd. He was carrying a knife, got into an altercation with the police, ended up stabbing a police officer and went to prison. As soon as he got out of prison, within 48 hours, he calls Rashid and says, "I'm out of prison. When can I come back to the youth club?" So for Rashid, having someone there to train and coach, mentor, support him, he had closed his youth club down in his mosque, closed it and like, no one is helping me. There's no training, there's no guidance, there's no support. But thankfully, you know, he was able to restart it. And as soon as he came out of prison, the first call he made was to Rashid, the young person. First call he made was to Rashid, trusted adult. Wow, Abdul's story. He used to attend a youth club. In fact, this is one that I took. This conversation happened 2 weeks ago with myself. He used to attend a youth club in his local area in Brent, in one of the most diverse boroughs in the UK. And have you ever played a game, you know, like where, you know, you get into trouble in the game and then you have to hide from the police, you know, until the heat cools off? Mm. Young people were using the other youth center like that. They would get up to no good. So in one occasion, he told me like they in the middle of the night, they smashed open a shop and ransacked, etc. And they would hide in the youth center. You know, police would like, you know, avoid them. So Abdul came to me at a different, you know, at a new center that we started in the same borough. And after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, he asked for a one-to-one, like an private one-to-one session. And that's when he opened up that these used to be my friends. This is what they're doing. This is, you know, I know the people. They're getting into drugs now. What do I do? And we had a really important heart-to-heart about this. And I think for him, the most cathartic thing was that he could talk to someone about it. And I asked him, I said, look, this new youth hub that we started has only been running for a few weeks. What made you think that you could talk to us? And he said, I don't know, I could just trust you. You know, he, in a short space of time, he built that trust, that rapport with us, that he was able to confide in us. And even if we couldn't fix it, you know, and it's a bigger issue and we'll need to work with that other youth club, you know, to figure it out. But even if we can't fix it, he could share it with someone. And that's the most important thing.
Last one.
Last one, let's go straight to the end. Yahya's over there, so I'm not going to share his story, but you can take him. Yahya, mashallah, you guys heard from him yesterday. He's one of the young people that we've trained and coached. I did have a video, don't think. Yeah, there he is. See, we love seeing your videos, Yahya. So I had another one, but I don't know if it's
more like you.
I don't know if it's going to work. Yeah, Aisha's story. You know what? Maybe over lunch, I'll tell you Aisha's story. I'll tell you Mo's story. Here he is. I'll tell you Uba's story. There she is. All right, this is what you guys want. This is our framework. Should have probably put this earlier in the deck. This is our youth engagement framework. This is what we built over 10 years of work. Yeah, it's for those of you, or that. So there's copies at the front. You can pick up one through our model. Very quickly on the framework, most organizations that we work with are excellent in one or two areas of engaging young people. For example, they'll have an excellent space and excellent resources. You know, I once went to a place where they had a space which was maybe a quarter of the size of this room, and they had 3 table tennis tables. I was like, guys, it's not even space to swing the bat, but they had the resources. But often, you know, there's a imbalance in the framework that I find with people so the way that people get work with us is we do an initial assessment and we establish a baseline. Where are they in terms of their engagement? And often there's an imbalance. They'll have great resources, great space, but their policies are an issue, their finances are an issue. Number 1 and 2 are the most important. Like they don't have the right, they're not effective in what they're doing, they don't have the right type of engagement. So through this framework is how we're unlocking the potential of the mosque through collaboration. And very quickly, I told you 63% of attendees through all of our different hubs attend on a regular basis, i.e. every single week, 63%. 69% of them trust their leaders at the youth hub, and 66% of the attendees open up to the leaders at their hubs. However, only 40% of the hubs that we worked with or are working with have a designated safeguarding lead. Only 52% or 52% have a suitable safeguarding policy. So there are issues, but having a framework for them to work through is critically important. And from a finance perspective, because again, whenever you ask youth workers, what's the biggest problem? It's finance. Biggest problem, finance. 29% of hubs, only 29% have applied for external funding for their youth work. So in summary, thank you, Lane, and everyone for letting me eat your lunch. Young people need a safe space that's local to them, staffed by culturally competent youth workers. Faith is a key part of everyone's identity, especially in the UK. And it's also a great connector. Faith is a great connector between them, their parents, and their community. You know, we're seeing a growing divide. You know, you've got lots of children of diaspora, different backgrounds. You know, faith is a great connector. It bridges the gap. And if we can unlock that potential at the community level, we'll find a sustainable way of utilizing our existing infrastructure. And so I think, Lane, we've covered all 4 I's. I think we've covered innovation, investment, inclusion, integrity. And all that's left to say is my thanks to the NYA and the Commonwealth for this program, for this weekend, and for your support. And I look forward to working with all of you, you know, from all your different organizations to see how we can bring this to your area. Our thanks to some of our supporters and sponsors. We're fully grassroots funded. We're not a funded organization. We run through charitable donations. We have no big bids, no big funds, no big investment. So I'd like to thank all these small organizations that allow us to do what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you so much. A wonderful presentation. Again, looking at this idea of a safe space and reimagining what that space could be in terms of the mosque and using it intentionally for youth work. Perhaps some of what was said here tickled your mind. You thought was interesting. You thought was in both panels, in both discussions, I certainly thought about the role of faith. So in the definition that we have on youth work, the idea of economic, social, and political empowerment is clear, but that spiritual conversation is often missed out. You know, why is that? I mean, how do you engage in both your cases? You're saying that there's another dimension here to making a young person whole that is not being captured, and you're capturing it in the homes, trying to pastoral care and in the mosque. Are we missing something in the broader youth work discussion if we miss out what maybe someone call emotional or cultural or spiritual? Are we missing something here? Let me hear from each of you on this one.
To go first, Phil.
No. I think I need a break.
Sure. Yes, would be the short answer. I think it for us it's not a distinct, okay, we're gonna do all the other forms of personal empowerment and now then we're gonna segregate off and do the spiritual stuff. It's all built in, and actually we invite young people, regardless of what they believe, to come and join in with our programs to build relationships of trust. We earn the right to be heard with them. We care for them holistically, and as part of that holistic care, that includes spiritual development. We think is absolutely key.
David, any thoughts?
I spent a lot of time in various committees over the years trying to encourage us to be more aware of the need for spiritual development. It's part of Ofsted's requirement at schools in the English context. And actually it's a key element of human experience. And if we miss it, then we're missing out on something that is of value.
One thing I'd add is at no point did I talk about a kind of religion. So in all the spaces that we have, you know, if young people are just surrounded by good people, good will come. There is no need to teach or preach in what we do. If you create spaces, so very quickly there's a Polish family that live next door to a mosque. They send their 14-year-old son to the mosque for the youth hub, and the mom is so happy with like how he is, how he's developing. He's a member of the community, and this is it. This is how communities should be. You know, if we're all good moral people. If you surround yourself with good moral people, then you will do good moral actions.
Perfect. If any other questions for either online, Katie, if you can pick up, I'm not seeing, or in the room, any questions or comments? Let me ask you, how did you, when you came to this session, did it meet your expectations? Lovely.
I work for Youth Next Scotland. I also sit on the board of Interfaith Scotland, and youth engagement has been big things. I don't think that's why I sit on the board. That's why I was invited to it. And it's what you just said at the end. I was like, that's basically how you build communication. Surround yourself with good people. You'll learn. You'll understand. You'll start to understand the faiths around you. We see in this country that's the mass, certainly in Scotland as well, the massive divisions you see between faith groups. We've got the sectarianism issue in Scotland, not quite to the level of Northern Ireland. Massive conflict between faith groups. But if you're building these community spaces that are open to anyone in that community, that's going to start building that. I want to.
Hassan?
So thank you for your presentation. A lot of it, particularly what Abe was saying, resonated with me, and we had a long conversation yesterday. So my question is, I try and word it very nicely, as nice as I can. So within the UK in particular, we have obviously people of faith and people of none. That's become quite a normal thing to say, which is reflects the diversity of the UK. But when it comes to, let's say, funding this project, faith, funding faith spaces, funding youth buildings, do you think funders or policymakers have perhaps a fear of faith and religion because of perhaps the way it's now made up in terms of people of faith, no faith, etc., etc. There might be a fear, maybe fear of the unknown, perhaps fear of, because at the end,
I've certainly met funders who have a requirement that they do not fund anything faith related as a blanket, regardless of the faith. So yeah, there is definitely an issue out there.
And how do we navigate that? How do the funds do?
I think it's some of the discussion we had here about reassuring, doing the safeguarding, putting in those guidelines, isn't it? You're trying to make it much more, I think, interesting to people, but showcasing that it actually is structured and well thought out, and is, you know, you've done the hard work. I mean, I think that may be one way, but it's going to be it remains a challenge. That's 100%.
Yeah, that's a really interesting topic. So I've had thank you all for the opportunity of sharing your insights. I've had the opportunity. My name is Jahangir Malik, Mission, work closely with Here for Youth. It's a really good question. So DCMS recently put a fund out for £365 million, the Youth Investment Fund for building infrastructure. We engaged with DCMS and said, how about building a youth centre at a mosque? Can you imagine the reaction? Oh, what did you just ask? How about building a youth centre at a mosque? 5,000 people come to a mosque on a weekly basis. One of the most deprived areas from Birmingham. I'm from Birmingham, and one of the most deprived areas. We could build a brand new centre, state of the art. It might cost us about 10 million to build and all the rest of it. We could do a youth zone example, not knocking, I think it's a great model, or we could use an existing infrastructure that already exists, and you put it out there. There's 1,500 mosques in the United Kingdom. Not all will be ready for the place, but there's asset there. So if we invest in it, it could work. It could work.
And investing in it is far cheaper than
So
building it from
we
scratch.
managed to convince the funder to go with that. And so we're on a journey of piloting an example of public-private sector partnership where state funding of a mosque infrastructure to purpose. The only requirement is it has to be open to all. Access.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great learning opportunity for mosque, which largely previously would be only for Muslim community, but this would enable us to play the role that you're sort of talking. So we're on a journey at this moment in time, which is a learning journey for the mosque as well as for the funders.
And I had a question, but do you also need funding for, you know, the practice model that you're promoting, which is in the homes? How does that work?
Well, I think to kind of link those two questions together. So let's face it, it's an uphill struggle to try and advocate for public funding for faith-based youth work. I applaud you for really engaging with DCMS. I believe we need to do more of that. But I think to Ayub's point about, well, let's actually look at what's the free stuff we can currently use. And so mosques, private dwellings. I mean, the reasons for using them stand on their own 2 feet. But another part of the puzzle is it's free. It means we can get on and do it. And so let's not use up all our energy on trying to get funding, which we may not get. But let's also make the most of what we've already given.
Excellent. We'll probably have some time for one more question.
80-20.
Yeah. Thank you very much. In Malaysia, so far, we are not that worried about funding. Our worry is more about safeguarding the youth workers to make sure that they really practice the ethical responsibilities, because of course this is a place where you have full trust of the youth. So safeguarding in terms of not having what we call the spiritual rider under the name of faith, but you are abusing the youth and whatnot. So this is the thing that we are very concerned. Then of course another one is without enough youth work knowledge and skills, you make use of all kind of punishment,
other approaches
under the name of youth development. So that's the concern. So I think safeguarding in terms of the code of practice and ensuring that we can maintain this quality assurance of youth work.
When it comes to safeguarding, safeguarding sometimes is seen as a document, as a policy. The way we teach and convey safeguarding is that safeguarding for us are a set of values. If you understand the values behind it, it's not a document that sits on the shelf. It's something that you bring to every session, every engagement.
Abuse.
I mean, truth, it can be a scary thing. When you see I see some people say, I don't want to get involved with this because it's too much, Last question, Mar, say your name again. Prof, say your name so that the panelists can follow up.
I'm Ismi Arif from University Putra Malaysia. teaching youth academic programs. Thank you.
Last one, Marwan, say your name and last question.
Okay, my name is Marwan from Nigeria. And I think what I just wanted to say is to really commend the panelists for this, because most especially what I would say is in terms of the role of mosques, the role mosques can play in all of those, because I come from, another part of Nigeria, basically a very large Muslim community. And of course, if we could be able to understand the role these places can play in terms of saving peace, because basically back there in Africa, mostly that these are the places that mostly, are used for other purposes, for example, political influence and other things. But why not enlighten people on, how to be, promote peace in the society, promote good things, unlocking their potentials and other things. Because it's a large community that have many people going there almost every day, and then 5 times a day. So I really comment that comment, and I think this is something I can also take forward, to see how this can also be realized.
I mean, in the UK, like an average mosque gets about 1,000 worshippers a week, like especially on a Friday, especially on Jummah. That we have, and mosque attendance across the world, but in the UK is going up and up and up. So there's a potential, huge potential here. With just, again, it's the whole, what we're just talking about, 80-20, like few small tweaks, few small changes, a little bit of investment, a little bit of training, guidance, and you've already done 80% of the work. The top 20%, engaging with the DCMS, higher level of engagement. Yes, absolutely. Within these mosques, we want to get people on a pathway to become JNC qualified and qualified youth workers, and grow youth workers who love youth work as a profession. But that will take time. That's the 20%. We can work on that for the next 10 years. We can do the 80% in a year. Like, we could do the 8% in a year. We focus.
But let me, again, on behalf of those online, I hope they're still there, and those in the room. There were about 14 people online, and a good probably 12 or so in here. So it's a good discussion right across the world. Let me thank you for the discussion you've had. I think you've opened up our minds to options or possibilities in terms of looking at the home as a space, a safe space for to practice youth work, and the mosque, reimagining what it could be or should be given its history. And I think it just gives us something now to go back to our different countries with, and to bring in the element of faith within the context of youth work, or the idea that there's another dimension here that we're not talking about, just missing from the discourse, is very good. And I commend you for sharing the session. And we look forward to connecting with you and reading in depth the papers and presentation that you have shared. Let me thank Katie and all those who work, our moderator and our speakers in particular. A round of applause for them.